السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the fiqh of marriage by Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, and we reached the sixth chapter, chapter number 6, and the title of this chapter is في العدد المباح في النكاح, which is what's permissible in numbers of marriage, like the multiple marriages or having more than one wife, and what's permissible with regards to that. Sheikh rahimahullah, he said that when it used to be that a man would have unlimited numbers of wives, and that would lead to wrongdoing and injustice and basically all kinds of evil things as a result of this, and having the inability to fulfill the rights of wives, and also at the same time to have only as a limit for every man one wife for everyone at all levels. This also can lead to evil, and fulfilling the desire can be in a sinful way then as a result of that, and spreading sins. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it permissible to have a ta'addud, or to have more than one wife, but up to 4 only. Because this is the number when a man can attain justice. And not, again, this is not for everyone, but this is the number that a person or a human being that has the ability to do so can achieve justice and to fulfill the rights of marriage, and to fulfill the needs that is needed. But before we go further, this subject, and with all the negativity that is surrounding it, and we're living at times when Muslims, or some Muslims, they fear or they feel inferior to those who are basically superior than them physically in this life. We have to be extremely careful, because the deen of Islam does not change because of how the situation of people is. We have to make sure that we are firm upon our deen, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted is what is right, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade is what is right. This is the haqq, this is the truth. And human beings, they are unjust. They keep on changing based on those who are in charge, or those who have power and authority. They manipulate things, and they deceive themselves and others, and so on. And the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is based on justice and mercy and wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the creator of the heavens and the earth, and he's the one that created the human beings. So no doubt about the fact that this deen and the rulings of the deen of Islam is the most perfect, and there's nothing that no one can be ever able to oppose this in a way that he would diminish the truth. The thing is that we have to also understand the different levels of the a'mal and the rulings. What is obligation or what's obligatory versus what's haram, versus what's permissible and what's makruh and mustahab. So here the subject is, it's permissible for a man to have more than one wife, but with conditions, but up to 4, with conditions to be fulfilled. And as it's mentioned by the people of knowledge, not every man can have more than one wife. And at the same time, not every woman would be able to sustain that, if it's correct to say, and that the combination has to be there. And therefore, people have to be patient with the orders of Allah for the better goodness, because this deen is not based on the desires of the people, but based on what's good and what brings the benefit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 3, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. Get married to whatever you wish from women, 2 or 3 or 4. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. If you fear that you won't be just, then one only. And the Sheikh rahimahullah, he said at the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, one of the people, Ghilan al-Thaqafi, he became a Muslim, and he had 10 wives. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam commanded him to choose from them only 4, and to divorce the rest. And also Qais ibn al-Harith, he said, I became a Muslim, and he had 8 wives. And he went to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ told him, you have to choose only 4. And the Sheikh rahimahullah, he says that having more than one wife to that limit, which is only 4 at one time, has benefits, one of which is that it becomes sometimes a necessity in some situations. When, for example, the wife is old in age or she's sick, and if he only keeps one wife, this can be not sufficient for the man to be chastised and to protect himself from haram. And he has children from her. So if it's only one wife, then the only choice for him to divorce and to get remarried, no, it's better than to keep his wife and to get remarried or to get another wife. And this is, something that can bring benefits as a result of this. The other thing is, or another benefit, is that marriage is a mean or a reason for people and relationships to be strengthened, and to create more relationships and relatives based on lineage and things like this. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ مِنَ الْمَاءِ بَشَرًا فَجَعَلَهُ نَسَبًا وَصِهْرًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created from water human beings, and He made from it nasaban. Nasab is the lineage. وَصِهْرًا is the relationship that comes as a result of marriage. So when people get married, their goodness would be extended to the different families, to more relationships, and to establish salat al-rahim in a more comprehensive way, and people will do more good to one another and things like this. And that's one of the reasons that made the Prophet ﷺ marry more than one, with establishing these relationships with different tribes, with different people, and so on. Also, one of the benefits is that it protects many of the women by taking care of their expenses and their housing and their having children, and this is something that is recommended in the deen. And again, we have to understand that this deen is based on principles. So if it's, certain things are forbidden, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the ways of what's permissible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best the human beings. So if it's forbidden for a person to, if the adultery is a major sin, and lowering the gaze is a mandatory thing, and so on, and the limits between men and women, and forbidding free mixing, and so on, right? And if there is divorces, there is people that dies and things like this, and this deen reflects the reality of the human beings. So if it's only if we imagine a situation where there's only one wife for every man, then what's going to happen to the rest of the women in the society? Then they're deprived of their basic rights of having children, of being a mother, of being a wife. And if it's not permissible for her to have a relationship outside the fold of marriage, then what's going to happen? So this is a reality. This is a reality in the life of the human beings, but the disbelievers or the human beings, they cannot fulfill this because they are acting based on their desires and not based on what is benefiting for human beings. So all different rulings, they all go together. It's not just about having multiple wives and that's it. No, there are other rulings that a Muslim is supposed to observe, being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and things like this. And the fourth benefit that he mentioned, that some of the men, they might have more intense in their desires, that one is not sufficient. So, and he is someone that fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he doesn't want to commit haram. So from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted for the men to have more than one wife. And this is the end of what this sixth chapter is. Some people, when they say, but what if, on the other side, if a woman, for example, have some needs that the husband is not able to fulfill that, then there is a way out of that, and that is to seek divorce if this is something applicable, and then she would seek, marriage after the iddah period is over. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the woman that she cannot have more than one man in her relationship, and He permitted physically for the man to have more than one, wife. When it comes to marriage as an institution, as rights to be observed, as families to take care of, it's not affairs. And some of the people, they use the second wife and third wife as if they're living an affair with someone else. Things are hidden. He's hiding it from his wife. He's hiding it from his children, and he's maybe lying or not sometimes fulfilling the rights of the second or the third one because things are not done in the proper way. If he dies, what is the rulings of inheritance, because nobody knows anything. And this is something that needs to be avoided, and people need to be patient with the orders of Allah. Either it's done in the proper way, and people are, they're not destroying households to have or to initiate another household. It's something that brings goodness, and it brings all kinds of benefits to it. And this is what needs to be done. And every person is unique in their rulings. Who would, this permissible for him, someone else this can be harmful. It depends on each person and what they need. And even some of the books of fiqh, you would find the ulama, they would say for a talibul ilm, or the student of knowledge, one wife is sufficient, as Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, because he's busy with seeking knowledge, for example. But it doesn't mean that this is something that is part of the deen, that a person has to be like that. But it shows that since the matter is permissible, it's not something that is mandatory to happen. And if the only problem in multiple marriages is that from the woman perspective, is the ghayra or the jealousy, that's the only thing, then that means this husband is successful in being just among all of his wives. And when it comes to the jealousy part, then the Prophet ﷺ said to Salama radiallahu anha a cure to this, and that is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure her from this. And life is not according to be, is not going to be according to our desires all the time. Sometimes we have to be patient and seek rewards from Allah, and being in a situation like that or different, and being protected from another situation and things of that nature. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. But again, this is part of the deen, to believe and to have this clear, that this is what is permissible, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. And for those who might be question these types of things and trying to fit in a specific environment, they should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not to change their religion or conceal the rulings of this deen. And this is part of what this deen is miraculously, the rulings of it is a miraculous thing, and it fits all people, all different walks of life. It's universal for all societies and things like this. So we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. It's a short lecture today. طيب, barakallahu fikum, and we have the next class, inshallah, in a few minutes. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.